Today I will be talking about Lysistrata. This is specifically a costume design project that I had created. I have never done costume design before, but it is something that has interested me for a long time. It's actually the reason why I wanted to go into theater, but I don't know, I've never really pursued it, and so now I'm trying to do that. Um, so first of all, this Estrada is the one that I will be talking about today. It's a very interesting play. It has a lot of social commentary, a lot of political and economic commentary as well. The playwright who wrote it, which his name is Aristophanes, was a very important comedic during his time because of his plays that he produced similar to Lysistrata, and their goals and their social commentary and their objectives. Just very interesting pieces in general to study, but today we'll be studying Lysistrata. So before I talk about my costumes, I want to talk a little bit about what's hot or not in Greece during this time in 400 BC, of course. So these were basically things that I used to influence my designs that I had created, just because I wanted them to be historically accurate, but also play more towards the play and the shocking element of it. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the chiton and the exemis. The chiton is usually worn by a woman. It was like a thin, almost imagine like a white sheet, the stereotypical toga idea. It would usually be tied up on either one shoulder or both shoulders and laid across and then folded over with like a belt underneath. And it was a very thin piece of fabric, kind of maybe a little more sheer, just kind of depended on the person more or less. And then the exemis is a similar to chiton, same fabric, same idea, but it is shorter, just because they were usually worn by men. So for example, this one right here is considered an exemis. This one's considered a chiton, but is very similar to what a peplos would look like. A peplos is more of a clothing that you would wear towards like wintertime or nighttime or anytime that you feel cold necessarily, because it is made of a thicker fabric. It's made of wool or cotton or a combination, and pretty much it would also be tied at the top with a brooch on top of your shoulders, but it was folded over again at the belt, but it would create a little pocket at the, I guess, like at the belly of you, called a peplos. And a peplos was like a little pocket, not peplos, I'm sorry, a koplos, which pretty much held things if people wanted to hold things. Think of a kangaroo pouch, it's very similar to that. And then a hemation is what you can see is on this woman right here, or even she's wearing a version of it, I guess. It's usually only put onto one shoulder, and it's like a cape, and it kind of like you could use it as a coat almost, like a longer coat, but more of a stylistic choice. And then the strophian, if you can imagine like a bra or anything like that, it was kind of like a bra of its type, not necessarily a bra, it's a different type of style, but they'd put it under the chiton. It would, only women would really wear it. It was kind of more of like a cover or some idea of support for the breasts. Something similar to that. And then the epiblema and the chlamys, those are considered shawls and coats. This is exactly what I was talking about. This right here would be considered an epiblema. It's like a short, thin coat that they could wear over their outfits for modesty, as well as to keep warm. And let's be aware that during this time, specifically men were the only ones that were really able to show skin or nudity. They were much more welcome to it, where women had to be covered, but they could have that sheer dress that would show some things. And this kind of plays into the play of Lysistrata, of the idea of that women needed to be sacred and only in sexual purposes for their husbands, and that there was not much power behind them. They were kind of like, still in the idea of women have one purpose. To continue, a chlamys again is like only one that a man would wear. It's a short coat made of a similar fabric of the chiton. And then patassos is like a square hat that the Greek men would wear, and then women would usually wear crowns made of gold that would kind of like come to a point on their head. If you think of Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, very similar to that. And then footwear, of course, is something that was super important during the time. Sandals was usually a thing, as well as different types of shoe coverings, but that also depends on the era of time that these shoes were worn. They would also go barefoot in their houses. They wouldn't actually wear shoes in their houses. That was a quite normal thing. What we do know about the Greek accessories and clothing during this time, because there is unfortunately very little documentation of actual jewelry on like historical sites. I had a really hard time finding it, but these are some examples that I did find. Um, but as we can see, the jewelry is extremely intricate. It has a lot of detail. It's very well thought out, as well as silver and gold were both very, very common things to wear during the time. Um, so yeah, so the first person I want to talk about is Lysistrata. So this is who I decided to draw for my first thing because she is obviously the one who is leading this women army. She is the one who is in charge of creating the idea. She is the, I guess, the the person who leads the revolution. Um, so I just kind of want to show her costume in that way. Greens and yellows were really common during this time, which is why I included the greens. We also knew that at this time, costuming was extremely well, not costuming, but like their clothing had a lot of intricate designs in it. So I want to give a little bit to that. So as you can see, she has like the green and the gold embroidered into her dress here, as well as the belts that sometimes would keep into the waist up here. I decided to make it gold as well, just so that way we do show this like sense of luxury. Um, as well as the armband up here, the necklace here. This dress would be considered a chiton actually, just because of the way it is folded overwards. There's no little pocket right here. I did decide to have her breasts exposed as well as the leg being very high up, just to show that she is this sex symbol, that she is this one that is leading the revolution of ending this war with her body and with her ideology. She's very vulnerable. She's very in the moment. This is a woman that has a lot of beauty, which is exactly why I made her eyes and her eyes the way they are and how big her lips are, just because like the stereotypical idea of what beauty looks like. Um, so that's kind of why I made her this way. I just really wanted to portray the idea of how I guess conservative she was, but also how she was a seductress. She knew what she needed to do in order to get this war ended and the suffering of the women to be ended as well. So the other person I decided to draw is Kalanice. I believe that's how you pronounce her name. So I decided to make her a little bit of a bigger body just because she is a character that does really enjoy life. I also wanted some diversity in my drawing as a costume designer just because I think that's important. As well as and I also did this because she does talk about in the play, because she does mention like, oh, like don't worry about those people we're in fights with, but like their food, I love their food, let's eat their food, like don't get rid of them but keep their food. So I just want to show her that she's like a bigger than life person, that she has a lot of personality, that she enjoys wealth and she enjoys eating well, and she, all those things. I just want to make sure that was portrayed in her clothing and her body. Kalanice is also one of Lysistrata's friends, so obviously she's supportive of the idea of getting this war to end, and if we gotta seduce our men and not give them sex, then we have to. Um, but she is considered like a middle class, upper class woman, so I did include this intricate design of the golds down here, just to show that this is what that dress would look like if it was considered a polobos. Um, yeah. Um, but pretty much that's that kolpos right there, that little pocket that she would have because of how she's wearing it. That little pouch that could have things in here if they wanted to. I also had her breast out just because I wanted to show that she's also committed to this revolution of making sure that, the women's are getting their needs met as well, and that this useless war just needs to come to an end. Um, Also showing her legs down here as well, because women did not usually show their legs. If anything, they had a sheer covering where you could see the legs, but this exposed is considered extremely risque during the time. So I wanted to show that she was also in support of this ideology that is new to 400 BC Greece. As well as I included the purple and the pink into her hair, just because Kalanice is a very loyal friend. Those are usually colors assigned to loyalty as well as royalty, and I wanted to make sure that her, I guess you could say, bouginess, is being included in her costume. Lastly, I had designed Marine, I believe her name is. She's a very interesting character. She is like one of the ladies that Lysistrata meets during the time of trying to convince the women to not give sex to their men. This piece I really enjoy drawing a lot. Just because as a costume designer, when you're learning to draw bodies and learning to draw things, it's really interesting how your sketching style changes over time. But what I really wanted to include here is to symbolize how Marine is a very free person, because without the women following Lysistrata's orders, the ending of the war would never happen, and Marine and the women that follow is a very important part in the play. Um, so I included the blue just because blue I feel like represents a little bit of innocence as well as like loyalty to the idea. I made it very delicate because she is um, a delicate woman, but also extremely strong, and she knows what she wants, and she knows that she wants the war to end. I also included this little dangly chain just to exemplify that she is a free person. In general, as we can tell, she's positioned different than the rest of the characters that I had drawn. Reason for this being is because I wanted to symbolize how free she is, how without her act, the war would never really have come to an end. And as you can tell, we can see that her genitalia is out. I did this intentionally as well, just because I wanted to symbolize her seducing her husband, but then coming up with excuses like, I'm here, take me now, like I'm ready to have sex with you, but just kidding, I'm gonna leap away, I'm gonna be free because you're not ending this war, and we have a deal, and you have to commit to that deal before you get anything to do with me. So I really, as an artistic choice, decided to give a little detail to her genitalia and everything like that. Again, I also included the gold here just to show that she was like a normal woman. She wasn't like super high up there, but she did have some delicacy to her, so I decided to add the gold to her and flowing with the rest of the dress. I don't know if you have noticed this, but intentionally I've actually included the design to look a little bit like a vagina in this moment, just because, again, I wanted to symbolize that idea of she's the reason why the war ended, because even though Lysistrata thought of the idea and she was leading the revolution, it wouldn't have been without the women who are following her along to have really created the result that they were looking for. So, um, yeah, so that's what I created. And then this is my works cited. Pretty interesting websites. The Met has a lot of information about it if you're ever interested in looking into it. But that is it. So thank you.